Hi and welcome to this online course. This course is being offered absolutely free of cost to ensure that it reaches all those in need irrespective of social and economic circumstances. Also, through these courses, we want to achieve our vision to improve the lives of 1 million people. So please feel free to like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do go through the do's and don'ts of online learning before you start. Pause the video wherever required and make notes. Wish you all the very best and happy learning.
Hi and welcome to the course Certified Communication Expert. This is a free course on 3 of the top 10 life skills as recommended by WHO, which are effective communication, interpersonal relationships, and empathy. Let us start this session with a quote by Nat Turner, who says, "A good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity." So it becomes very important for all of us to learn to be effective communicators. Let us start with the session plan for this course. First, we will have a brief introduction to the course and course objectives. We will understand the definition of communication and the communication process. Then we will move on to verbal communication and we will learn 4 important skills under verbal communication, L, S, R and W. Then we will move on to non-verbal communication. Next is barriers to effective communication. In the next session, we will move on to interpersonal relationship, that is how to develop and maintain good cordial interpersonal relationships. Next, empathy versus sympathy. We will understand in detail about this topic of empathy. We will have a case study and exercise in the end, which is going to be mandatory for certification. We will wrap up the course with summary, queries, and feedback. Let us now get into introduction to the course and objectives. Certified Communication Expert is a comprehensive course on communication with the following key objectives. 1. To ensure that the learners understand in depth about effective communication. To help learners understand how to build and maintain cordial interpersonal relationships.
3. To build empathy in learners. As informed earlier, these 3 skills, that is, effective communication, interpersonal relationships, and empathy, are 3 out of top 10 life skills identified by World Health Organization. So our overall objective from this course is to make sure that learners understand and learn these 3 key life skills in detail.
Let us now get into the first session of this course, definition and process of communication. First, let us define what is communication. In very simple terms, communication is just the transfer of information from one person to another. Now, if the intended communication and the received communication is the same, then it becomes effective communication. If it is not, it becomes ineffective communication.
To give you a more detailed definition, communication is the transfer of intended meanings from one entity or group to another using mutually understandable signs and rules. The key words in this definition are intended meaning, mutually understandable signs and rules. Now, this intended meaning is the purpose of communication, and mutually understandable rules and signs can be words, can be spoken or written words, can be gestures, body language, etc. Basically, communication is the transfer of information, and it can be done in multiple ways.
Communication is basically a process. Now let me start with explaining a process or system in general. Any process will start with something called as an input. then there will be a process. Finally, there will be an output coming from the processing. There is something called feedback which goes from output to input. You can think of any system around you. Let us take a very simple example of a mixer or a juicer. What is the input? The fruits which we put inside. Processing is when we switch on the mixer or juicer, there is some process which goes on. Output is the juice which comes out of the mixer. Is there a feedback here? When you serve this juice to someone, he or she might drink it and give you a feedback saying that it had to be a little more smooth, some sugar needs to be added. Based on these feedback, the input changes the next time. That's called as a feedback. Now, this is a general definition of a system or process. Let us now fit the same definition into communication, because we said communication is also a process. Communication process always starts with the source and it is sent to the receiver. So if you take the example of the communication going on right now, I am the source of the communication and you are the receiver. Always there is a channel through which this communication or message is transferred. In this case, the channel is the audio which you are listening to. There is one process which is called as encoding, which is done by the source before sending the message in the channel. And there is another process called decoding, which the receiver does before receiving the message or the information. Finally, there is a feedback which comes from a receiver back to the source or the sender. Message is something which flows through all these stages, and the entire communication process happens in a particular context. See, in this process, source is input, receiver is the output. Encoding, channel and decoding form the process part. And of course, there is a feedback. So this entire communication process also fits in the general definition of a system or a process. What is encoding? Whenever you communicate to anyone, first thing what you will do is there is a picture, which is very abstract picture, which comes to your mind, what needs to be communicated. Now this abstract picture does not have a shape, form, size, etc. That's why we call it abstract. Then the communicator converts this into concrete form. Now the concrete form can be gestures, it can be words, it can be any form of communication. This process of converting the abstract thought into a concrete form is called as encoding. What is decoding? Every one of us receive a lot of information through different channels of communication. We select what needs to be understood, or we select the information which are coming in, and then we do a process called as decoding, and that is based on our experience and capabilities. This process is called as decoding, through which everyone will understand the communication which are being received. Feedback. Now you might ask, is there a feedback in the communication happening right now? Now, because this is a one-way channel which we are using, we use different forms of feedback, like, you can email us your feedback, you can take a quiz, you can write your comments in the YouTube channel. All these are the ways we are taking the feedback. Even if you are nodding your head right now, that is also a feedback which is coming from receiver to the source. Finally, what is the context? Context is the environment in which the entire communication process is taking place. It is very important for you to understand the context of the communication. Otherwise, the entire communication might be taken very wrongly. Just to give you an example, you might have seen this in newspapers that politicians quote that my words or my statement was taken out of context. Now, what does this mean? Now, the politician might have said something regarding a party or the government or anything in a different context, and what media people, newspaper people will do is they'll only pick a limited words or statement and they'll make it as a headline. If you don't go through the entire article, you might get the message absolutely wrong. That's why it is very important for you to understand the context. In simple terms, many times your father might shout on you. Not every time the shouting is wrong or bad. If you understand the context, you will understand why the shouting or the entire communication process is going on in the way it is going on. I hope the communication process is very clear to you. This acts as a foundation for the entire course of communication. So it is very, very important for you to be clear about this. If you have ineffective communication in your life, just go back to this particular session. Definitely there will be a problem in one or the other stage of communication process. Let us now get into the most common ways of communication. If you think, we as human beings communicate using 4 very common ways, which are speaking, writing, body language, and visuals. Now, body language has many things in it, including your eye contact, expressions, posture, gesture, your appearance, etc. Visuals, see, right now you're seeing a picture on your screen. That is a visual. It is not speaking or writing, but it is a picture through which we are trying to communicate. Let us now classify the communication. All the communication which are taking place can be classified in 2 or 3 different ways. Let us understand a few of them. First, verbal and non-verbal. Verbal communication is the use of words or language. Non-verbal is all the other communication which are not using words or language. Direct and indirect. Now this is based on the channel of communication. Face-to-face communication is direct. Any other channel used apart from this will be indirect, like WhatsApp messaging, Skype video call, or right now the communication which is going on, it is using a via media. So all these are indirect communication. Formal and informal. When it comes to business place, there are 2 things which you can bifurcate in communication, which are formal and informal communication. Formal is all the communication which happens through the formal channels of email, official letters, etc. Informal, which happens in cafeteria with friends, etc. Last, internal and external. This is also limited to the workplace. Internal communication is all those communication which happens within the organization, that is with your superiors, colleagues, subordinates, management, etc. External communication is all that communication which happens with the company and outsiders. Now outsiders, I mean even the customers, government, outside body, media, all these people are external audience to the organization. Hope the classification and the process of communication is clear to you. Now let us understand verbal communication. Out of the 100% of communication which we do in our day-to-day lives, only 7% is verbal communication. That is use of words and language. We can also call linguistic communication. Apart from that, 93% is non-verbal communication. Now within that 93%, 55% is pure body language or physiological, and remaining 38% is tonality or the pitch, modulation, etc. which we use when we communicate with other people. Now we understand how important is both verbal and non-verbal communication for you. Some people usually ask me, how is only 7% verbal? We keep talking the entire day, right? See, just because we are human beings, at least 7% of our communication is verbal, because we have invented something called a language. In case of other animals, 100% of the communication is actually non-verbal, right? So let's now get into the verbal communication part. When we talk about verbal communication or use of words or language, there are 4 skills which are needed by any individual in order to be effective verbal communicator. What are those? The first one is L or listening, S or speaking, R or reading, W which stands for writing. And it actually forms a hierarchy. That is, the topmost skill in verbal communication is listening, and it is not speaking, right? Then comes S, R and W in that order. But the irony is, if you think, we actually give the reverse importance. That means, you know, in our community, when the child is sent to the school, before it is sent to the school, there is a small ceremony which happens, and where the child is made to write first. It is called Aksharabhyasa. So the last important skill in verbal communication is what we start the education with. Reading is something we do next. Speaking is rarely given importance. Listening, no one even bothers to learn about it. But it is actually listening first, then speaking, then comes reading and writing. Let us go through these skills one by one.
Let us now understand the first skill in verbal communication, which is listening. The most important skill in verbal communication. First key thing here is to understand that hearing and listening are two different things. Hearing is completely involuntary. Right now, if you pause the video and start observing, there are a lot of sounds which are coming and falling on your eardrum. Now that's hearing. Listening is focused. Out of all the sounds which are falling on your ear right now, you are focused on what I am speaking to you. Then it becomes listening. Please understand, LSRW, the key skill in verbal communication is listening and not just hearing.
Don't just listen, but we all need to focus on critical listening in order to be effective communicators. And critical listening follows a process. Of course, it starts with hearing or the sensation, because that is very important in order to process the sound further. Then there is a stage called selection, which is sorting of the sounds which are falling on our ears. That means right now, if you pause this video and just observe, there are a lot of sounds which might be falling on your ears, but you choose to select the sound which is coming from this course right now. That is called selection or sorting. The next stage is interpretation. That is the search for meaning. Whenever you actively listen to some sound, you are trying to interpret the meaning which is there in that particular sound. Fourth stage is evaluation or assessment. You don't just take anything which is coming to you in form of a verbal communication, right? You try to evaluate whether it is right or wrong. That's called as an assessment. Right now, I am sharing a lot of information with you. You might not just be selecting and interpreting what I am trying to say, but you are also evaluating whether the information which is being provided is right, wrong, whether should you take it on the face value or not. Everything is being done. Please understand, if you do the process from hearing till evaluation, it is just listening. If you don't add the last stage of critical listening process, the process of active listening or critical listening will not be complete. The last stage of critical listening process is response or feedback. Whenever you listen to something, it is very, very important for you to give a response or feedback. That is when the process will get completed. So how do you give feedback in this case? You might write a feedback, you might call me after the session is complete, you might take the quiz. Lot of means to give feedback, right? Without a response or feedback, the listening process is incomplete. Feedback or response might even be the implementation of the learning from this course. Even that is a kind of a response or feedback. I hope the critical listening process is clear to you. Let us now move on to types of listening. Now this will start with a very basic level or superficial listening to the deepest level of listening. All right. The most basic level of listening is discriminative listening. That means you are just able to discriminate between two sounds. That's all, nothing more than that. Next stage is comprehension. You're able to understand what is the meaning of the sound which is falling on your ears. Third, critical or evaluative listening, where you are basically evaluating what is going on. It is the listening, the kind of listening that the judges do on a reality TV show, for instance. Then comes biased listening. That means you're keenly listening to someone, evaluating, and you're also biased about it. For instance, if you are listening to a politician and you have affinity towards another party, you'll have a biased listening towards that speech of the politician. Next level is appreciative. The example here is when you listen to a child reciting a rhyme, for instance. You're not basically evaluating there, you're just trying to appreciate what the child is doing. Fifth level of listening. Let's move on to the next types of listening. Sixth is sympathetic. See, if you want to sympathize with someone, you keenly listen to that person, what is going on with his life, and you basically sympathize. Deeper than that is empathetic listening. You don't just sympathize with the other person, but you really understand the situation of the other person, and you might also act instead of just sympathizing. More deeper level of listening is therapeutic. Therapeutic is something which psychiatrists and counselors do. That's very deep level of listening where they don't just listen to empathize or sympathize with you, but they are listening to give you a a cure or a suggestion or a recommendation based on whatever they are listening. More deeper level is called dialogic. Dialogic is where you are not just listening, you are also listening to respond and create a dialogue between the other person. Last level of listening is relationship listening. Now this is the deepest level of listening which one person can do. What do I mean by that? Have you ever been in a situation where you have spoken to a person on phone for hours together? It might be your fiance, it might be your best friend, it might be your mom, your dad, etc. And when you do this kind of talking on the phone, basically there is no real stuff to talk for 1 hour, but still you do, right? You are just listening to the other person and the other person is just listening to you. It is based on a very strong relationship between two people. That's called relationship listening. The deepest level of listening which one can do is relationship listening. Now, when we can do it with one or two people in our lives, why can't we develop relationship listening with everyone we speak to? It is possible. How can you do that? It's very simple. Even if you are just passing through the gate of your office and you happen to say hi or good morning to your security guard, don't just do it superficially. Give your 100% to that person. That itself is relationship listening. It is not that you have to speak to the person for hours together, but if you are giving yourself to that person for whatever amount of time you are talking with that person, that becomes relationship listening. Do it for once and see the magic of listening. Let's now move to the second skill of verbal communication, which is speaking. Let's understand few very important ways to improve the spoken communication. One, clarity of thought. You should be very clear on what you are intending to communicate. Two, purpose. Purpose of communication is everything. Without purpose, if you are talking, your communication will definitely be ineffective. Three, empathy. We are going to talk more and discuss more about this topic in the later stages of this course. You should basically understand the other person's situation before you speak. Two-way communication. Remember, any communication which is happening one-sided is not effective. Always make your communication two-way. Use appropriate language. You talk differently with a child and you talk differently when you are with your colleague, right? That is the language I'm talking about, and not just the language like English, Hindi, Kannada, etc. Use the appropriate language when you are talking with people. Walk the talk. Any person who does what he says, that person's communication is much more effective than the person who does not do it. Credibility. Credibility is not built in a day. You have to keep doing all the things which have been spoken about in this section, plus you have to keep walking your talk. That's when you will become a credible communicator when you speak. Last but not the least, listening and questioning. In order to improve your spoken communication, you need to listen very carefully. Remember the critical listening process which we discussed, and learn how to question. There are many types of questions you can ask, like closed-ended questions like, do you like idli? What is your name, etc. Yes or no questions basically. Or you can ask open-ended questions like, can you tell me more about your native place, etc. Question and question really well in order to improve your spoken communication. Next, let's move on to reading. We are done with listening, speaking. Now we are talking about reading. Reading is a cognitive process of decoding symbols to derive meaning. If you think, all these letters which you are seeing on the screen right now are all symbols, right? You are basically decoding symbols to derive some meaning out of it. The components of reading include decoding, that is process of converting word into a sound; comprehension, that is understanding of the text or message; retention, or retaining in short or long-term memory. What are the skills required for reading? There are 4 key skills which you need for reading, which are eye and mind coordination, visual discrimination, interpretation skills, and association skills. These are required, as well as the more you read, the more you'll improve these skills. Importance of reading. Reading is a fundamental function in today's life. It develops our mind and improves imagination and creativity. It helps discover new things. It also helps to develop a positive self-image and improves spelling and vocabulary. Last but not the least, let us understand more about writing, which is the 4th skill required for verbal communication. When we talk about writing, it follows a process. It starts with goal or intent. Like any other communication, even a written communication, one has to be clear on what is the goal or intent of that writing. Brainstorm ideas on what all needs to be put in that particular writing or article. Organize your ideas. Come to some main ideas which are going to be put forward in that writing. Draft. Once all these things are clear, draft your article, letter, or that piece of writing. Revise, edit, proofread. This has to be done multiple times in order to finalize your writing. Now, proofreading is very, very important, and it is done solely for the purpose of finding faults in your writing so that your final piece of writing is perfect without any errors like grammar, spelling, etc. Some useful tips for writing for you: always have a single topic per paragraph. Use a logical order. Writing is also like storytelling. If you are some movies are very good, but you don't get the entire idea of the movie if the editing is not right, correct? So use a logical order in your writing as well. Use graphics only if they illustrate something in the text. Don't just use graphics for the heck of it. Please use graphics or pictures if they illustrate something. Like, for instance, here I have used helpful tips. There is a small graphic which is used in this slide. While proofreading, start in a different place every time and try reading backwards. As I said, proofreading is done just to find faults in your writing. So if you read the same way every time, you might not, or you might tend to skip the errors you have made. To try reading backwards or reading from different place so that you don't get the logic of your writing and you might find the errors easily. Get right to the point, be polite, professional, and focused in your writings. Think about the audience and avoid overly formal language. Remember, we are not talking for ourselves. We are not writing for ourselves. We are doing it for the audience. So always think about the audience and then customize your writing for the audience you are intending the communication to. Now that we are done with verbal communication, let us get into non-verbal communication now. As discussed earlier, 93% of our communication is non-verbal. Only 7% is verbal. So out of 93%, 55% is body language and 38% is tonality. Now both put together is basically non-verbal communication. That's why we say 93% is non-verbal communication. What is non-verbal? There are different body language signs. For example, you can see the picture on the screen right now. Just by the way you are sitting or standing and moving your hands and limbs, the other person can make out a lot of things. That is called as non-verbal communication. If you are bored, you are depressed, if you are wanting to show your bossism, if you are elated, if you fold your hands, for instance, it normally means that you are defensive or closed. If you are thoughtful or curious, automatically your hands will go near your face. All these are the body language signs. There are different types even in non-verbal communication, not just your body language signs. And what are those? Kinesics. The non-verbal communication which is related to the movement of your body is called as kinesics. Posture, the way you stand, gestures, the way you move your limbs, hands, are all part of kinesics. In order to communicate confidence, always stand or sit straight. That is the posture you need to carry. It's very simple. Never bend your spine, all right? If you stand, stand the tallest you can. If you sit, sit the tallest you can. Gestures or hand movements, use it effectively to complement what you are basically speaking or communicating. Second type of non-verbal communication is facial expressions. You can see this picture of the kid. Just through expressions, so many things can be communicated. Third is called as haptics, or the science of touch. Even a touch can communicate a lot of things. You should know what is an appropriate and inappropriate touch. When you shake hands with someone, for instance, make sure your shake hand is straight, strong, and the duration of the shake hand is very, very apt. Anything which is missing and you might communicate something wrong. Fourth type is oculesics, or the nonverbal communication using your eyes. Eye contact plays a very, very important role in communication. If you are not making eye contact, that simply means that you are not confident in what is being communicated. So please ensure that can come from practice, that you are making an eye contact with the audience or with the person you are communicating with. There is a slight difference between eye contact and a stare. Make it eye contact and not stare, all right, in order for you to be an effective communicator. Proxemics. Proxemics is the nonverbal communication related to the distance you are maintaining with the other person. Always maintain one arm distance, which is normally called the personal space of a person. In a professional setup, you should not enter the personal space of any person. Even if you are shaking hands with someone, shake hands and stand one step back. That is, give that personal space to the person there. In your personal scenarios, that doesn't matter. Friends even put their hands on the shoulder of each other and sit. That doesn't matter. Proxemics is very important, and it can build your character as a communicator or spoil it. Chronomics, perception of time. This is very interesting. The way you perceive time is also part of your nonverbal communication. For instance, you might have observed, always politicians enter late into a public function. Now, this is a small behavior or a polychronic perception of time, which indirectly communicates that this person is very important. Maybe he is very busy, right? There are two types of perception, polychronic and monochronic. Monochronic people are people like Germans, for whom 10 o'clock means 10 o'clock. It cannot be 9:59 or 10:01. Polychronic people are, unfortunately, we Indians who take time for granted, which should be changed if you ask me. Paralinguistics. Now, this is the tonality part of the nonverbal communication. The tone, voice modulation, pitch, all these things come under paralinguistics. The same thing can be communicated differently using just the voice modulation. There is a song called Abhi Mujhme Kahin in the movie Agnipath, which has been sung by Sonu Nigam. Amazing voice modulation used to bring out emotions. Even if you don't watch the song, just listen to the music, you will be able to understand the emotions in the song. Like this, you can use your tone, pitch, modulation to communicate better with the audience. Last but not the least, appearance. Now, appearance includes dressing, shoes, belt, makeup, hairstyle, deodorant. All these are part of your appearance. Now, that is also type of a non-verbal communication which you are giving to the person you are communicating to.
Understanding non-verbal communication is actually slightly complicated. Verbal is simple because if you know the language, you know what the other person is speaking. But as you understand, non-verbal communication has so many different types, and you can't just fix a meaning for one particular non-verbal communication. We normally say that folding the hands like this is blocked, right? Blocked or defensive gesture. But if you see Swami Vivekananda, most of his photographs or statues, he is actually standing like this, and in that case, he is not defensive or blocked. That shows grace, right? So it's not very easy to fix one straight meaning for one non-verbal communication style. What you need to understand non-verbal communication are three C's. What are those? Context, as we discussed in process of communication, cluster, and change. Let me explain this with an example. I had one of my students who had crushed on one of his classmates. He was sitting in the auditorium in the front row for some event or function. There was a seat available next to him, and the girl who he has a crush on, so she came and sat right next to him. A non-verbal communication, right? Now my student started thinking that probably the girl has also has some feelings for him. Is that right to assume? Now, if you think how to understand this non-verbal communication, context. What is the context? There is an event going on in the auditorium, and similar to this boy, the girl also wants to watch that event from as close proximity as possible. Cluster means what are the different non-verbal communication and even spoken communication which are there together. So did she speak something? No. What are the other non-verbal communication? The way she is moving, the way she sits, is she making eye contact, is she also giving a smile, is there some expression change? Now this is called as cluster. And what has changed? From what to what the body language changed. Now she was looking for an empty seat in the auditorium. Nothing was available. She saw one empty seat and she came and sat at that place. Now this is called change from one to another. Now we have to see all these three things together to understand what the non-verbal communication actually means. You can't just fix a meaning for one particular body language or gesture. I hope I am able to clarify this. Yes, compared to verbal communication, non-verbal communication is a little complicated to understand, and you need to see three C's, that is context, cluster and change, in order to understand non-verbal communication.
Let us get into some tips to in order to increase or improve your non-verbal communication. One, always keep appropriate distance when you are talking to people. Touch people only when appropriate. A lot of people do this mistake. They might not have intended anything wrong, but still it might be perceived wrongly from the other person. Use your posture, that is the way you sit and stand, and the gestures, that is your limb movements and hand movements, appropriately or effectively. Take care of your appearance. Appearance is a big part of nonverbal communication. Always take care of it and dress for the occasion. Maintain eye contact with anyone you are communicating with. It doesn't matter who, elder, younger, male, female, boss, colleague, doesn't matter. Try and maintain eye contact. Practice it, it will definitely come. Smile. Smile is a magical tool you can use. I usually say smile can even win you contracts worth billions. Smile and smile genuinely. Let us now understand some different communication styles. We are now moving ahead of verbal and non-verbal communication. There are 4 different styles of communication which one can have. First one is passive. Second type is passive aggressive, assertive, and aggressive. These are the 4 communication styles. Let's try to understand in detail what does these style mean. Passive style means I lose, you win. There are some people, the communication style is as if I give up. I don't want to get into an argument or discussion. I lose, you win. That's a passive or submissive style of communication. Passive aggressive is the most dangerous. I lose, you lose. That means I also lose and I will not let you win as well. I'll make sure you also lose. Now, this style of communication is difficult to even understand. These kind of people would be talking nice on your face, but they actually intend to make you lose as well as themselves. That's passive aggressive style of communication. Assertive is the right way of communication in any situation. I win, you win. Assertive communication is something where you communicate what is required, and also you'll ensure that the other person is not feeling offended or hurt. Always develop assertive communication in all the situations of your life with everyone you are communicating with. Aggressive is basically I win, you lose. There are people who are very clear, I want to win this argument or I want to win in any situation. I don't care about the other person. That's the aggressive style of communication. Now, these are the different communication styles, and the most appropriate style is assertive communication. In any situation you are, personal or professional, if you try and develop this style of communication through your words and body language, it is going to help you in the long run. Let's now get into a small activity in order to understand what kind of a person or communication style you have. You can pause the video at this point and identify 8 traits of yourself among the different traits which are given in this screen. Now that you have chosen your 8 traits, make columns: passive, aggressive, and assertive, and give points. For instance, if you have 3 points under passive, 5 under aggressive, 0 under assertive, that means you have predominantly an aggressive style of communication. Similarly, you can understand what is your predominant style of communication and try and practice to be a assertive communicator. Next session is barriers to effective communication. There are many barriers which hinder smooth and effective communication. If we understand it, it is very easy to remove it and make our communication effective. These barriers can be classified into 4 different types, which are physical barriers, semantic barriers or barriers related to meaning, psychological barriers or barriers related to the psychology of the communicator, and personal barriers of communicators. Let us now understand few physical barriers. Very simple. Physical barriers can be distance, like if the auditorium is very big and you don't have a mic, the communication might not reach the people who are sitting in the back. That's the physical barrier of a distance. Noise level. Too much of noise and your communication becomes ineffective. It can be a physical barrier like a wall in between 2 people who are communicating, etc. Now let's understand few semantic barriers or barriers related to meaning. First semantic barrier is similar symbols or words with different meaning. To take an example, a red dot might mean danger for someone, stop for someone else. It can be a bindi for some third person. Same symbol can be interpreted in multiple ways and sometimes becomes a barrier. Words like right, left, watch, and so on are same words but mean different in different situations. Many other words are there in multiple languages. In English, the words like resume, bat, sun, almost similar or similarly sounding words with 2 different meanings. Next semantic barrier is specialist language. Especially when professionals are speaking, they tend to forget whom they are speaking to and start using a lot of technical jargons which are used in their professional lives. For instance, when I am talking to a normal audience, if I use the word TNA, most of the audience might not understand what it is. But if I am talking to an audience which is into training and development, they would understand that I am referring to training need analysis. Avoid specialist language when you are talking to audience who does not understand these terms. Or if you want to use it, clarify what the term means first and then start using it. Faulty translation. Third semantic barrier. Now, translation can be of two types. First, language translation, that is, translation from one language to another, or simply quoting someone or saying that that person said this to me. Now, that is also kind of translation. Faulty translation is a big semantic barrier to communication. You might have seen a lot of advertisements in regional languages. In India, especially, the origin or the base language in which the advertisements are shot is Hindi. Then it is voice dubbed in other regional languages. Lot of advertisements, I can give examples where the translation is absolutely faulty, based on which the entire meaning of the conversation changes. Third set of barriers is psychological. Premature evaluation is one big psychological barrier to communication. What is it? Now, this is something all of us do normally, and we do it more with people who are very near and dear to us. Even before the person finishes what he or she wants to tell us, we tend to assume that we already know what it is, what he or she is trying to say. That's called premature evaluation. Loss by transmission and poor retention. When probably electricity or any kind of energy is transferred from one point to another, there's a loss in transmission. It holds good even in case of communication. When communication passes through a lot of links, it tends to get lost. Also, human beings have a limited memory capacity or retention capacity, and these two act as a big barrier to communication. You might have seen activities like Chinese whisper, where these things are demonstrated or illustrated. Always remember to reduce this barrier, keep the communication short, and that's why during learning sessions we recommend people to make notes, because everything what you have learned in a session might not be easy to remember, right? So that's why, to overcome the barrier of poor retention, we ask students or learners to make notes. The final set of barriers is called personal barriers. One such barrier is ignoring communication. This is something we tend to do normally. The communication is there, it is being given to the right person, but that person might tend to ignore the communication. In corporate life, I have seen this a lot. Emails are sent out by the department on some important announcement, but a lot of people have ignored, or they have not yet opened the email and they have just ignored that communication. And when the real time comes, they would not know what the communication is all about. Similarly, even in personal lives, we tend to do this. This is a personal attitudinal issue, personal barrier to communication. Lack of time. Many times, maybe because of your heavy schedule, you tend to forget to communicate. Though your intent is not to do so, you might want to have a clear-cut, effective communication, but because of lack of time, you might tend to miss out on communicating some things to your better half, to your boss, to your colleagues, to your subordinates, team members. That is also kind of personal barrier to communication. Now let us get into interpersonal relationships. How to develop and maintain cordial relationships with people. Maintaining interpersonal relationships is one of the most important skills which one can have. As was told earlier also, out of the top 10 life skills which has been listed by World Health Organization, interpersonal relationships is one. I always say, don't work for any other objective like money, promotion or anything, but to make relationships. The more strong relationships you make in your workplace, you can be an entrepreneur, a job goer or anyone. The stronger the relationships you make, the better you will become in whatever you are doing. So how to do that? Let me give you some key tricks in order to build and maintain those kind of healthy interpersonal relationships. Most important, please do remember that we human beings are interdependent. Nothing can be achieved alone. We are dependent on other people for a lot of things. Listening plays a very important role. Whenever you talk to someone, whenever you communicate with someone, give all your senses to that person, give your 100% and listen. Collaboration is very important. We were discussing about assertive communication style. It can also be called as collaborative style, where you focus on I win, you win. You are not just saying that I should win and you should lose, or you are not just giving up. You ensure that you are winning, the same time the other person wins as well. Always have an unbiased perception towards people. We are all surrounded with so much of negativity through media, through social media, and so many things, but uh, because of which we automatically have a lot of biases in our mind. Please remember, when you're talking to people, especially when you're talking to new people, don't have any kind of a bias. Talk openly, build your perceptions or build your point of view about that person after talking and getting experience, not before that. Always have a win-win mindset. Most important in building interpersonal relationships is giving and receiving feedback. If you want to give feedback to someone, please do once you have that kind of a cordial relationship with that person. More important is to receive feedback. And when you are receiving feedback or criticism, take it positively, because receiving feedback positively will help improve your own self. Effective communication. The entire course we have just talked about. You need to be a really good, effective communicator in order to build good interpersonal relationships. And last but not the least, empathy. Being empathetic towards people is very essential. We are going to discuss more about empathy specifically in the further sections. Now that we understood that interpersonal relationships is very important and empathy is one of the most important things you need to have to build interpersonal relationships, let's get into understanding what is this empathy and how is it different from sympathy. Empathy is the ability to identify and understand another person's situation and feelings. Sympathy is to feel sorry and pity for someone's misery or situation. Empathy focuses on action, whereas sympathy focuses on saying and feeling about other person. Empathy is very, very positive, whereas sympathy is actually negative. Empathy builds strength, whereas sympathy builds emotions and frustration. Let me explain this using an example for better clarity. When you see a man without limbs trying to cross the road, if you are a very sympathetic person, you will feel sorry and pity for that person's situation. What will happen because of this? When you feel sympathetic, within you, you will just build emotions and frustration. And if you show sympathy to another person, forget about who the other person is, even if he is physically or mentally challenged, that person will definitely not like it. So basically, it is a negative process if you ask me. Whereas if you are empathetic, what you would do, you have seen a person trying to cross the road who does not have limbs, he is feeling really frustrated and he is not understanding how to cross. You don't even think twice, just walk up to him, help him cross the road, ask him whether he needs any help. Don't show any sympathy to him, all right? Just be empathetic. He'll say thank you, and you don't even care if he says thank you to you or not. That is being empathetic. Always be empathetic towards people. Sympathy is no good for you or for the other person you are showing it.
There is a very simple formula for empathy. Empathy is equal to trust plus compassion. Now, my students and learners ask me, sir, compassion is fine, I am a compassionate being. But how can I trust people whom I have just met? So I am saying if you have trust and compassion, it will end up in empathy, right? When I was doing a session on goal setting, I have also had few people who have written that I trust people very easily and that's one of the weakness. Let me clarify this here. Trusting people easily is not a weakness, but it is a strength. Most of us, what we do is, when we see a completely new person, the first thing we do is we have a bias. We start by thinking negative about that person. We don't trust people easily, right? Most of people. Very few, less than 1% people are there who can trust people very easily, and it is a strength because that ends up building empathy in you. I trust people very easily, okay? And I say trust them till they prove otherwise. Some people break your trust within seconds, some people can break within minutes, within hours, within days, and some people, and most of the people, will actually prove that your trust was worthwhile. So please trust people, be compassionate, and you'll automatically become empathetic towards them. And empathy, as I've already told, is one of the most important life skill which you can possess in order to become highly effective communicator.
Let us quickly understand the case study or exercise for this course.
Please do remember that completing the exercise and quiz is mandatory for certification. Here goes the exercise. Go and talk to a complete stranger. Now he or she may be your neighbor, maybe the grocery store owner near your home, he might just be an acquaintance. Use empathetic means and develop a meaningful relationship with that person. Write an essay of at least 250 words on how was your experience. Use the learning from this course to complete this exercise. Link for the quiz, which is going to be multiple choice questions, around 20. It will be shared with those who are interested in certification.
This is how the sample certificate will look like if you choose to get certified, and of course complete the certification process, that is quiz as well as the case study or assignment. Let me now come to summarizing the entire course for you. We started with introduction to the course and course objectives. We then moved on to understanding the definition of communication and the communication process. Then we understood verbal communication and discussed and understood in detail about 4 skills which are very important in verbal communication. LSRW, that is listening, speaking, reading and writing. Then we got into non-verbal communication, importance of it, types of non-verbal communication like kinesics, haptics, oculesics and so on. We also understood the barriers to effective communication, different types and classification of the barriers. Then we got into interpersonal relationships, how to develop and maintain them. Finally, we understood about empathy and how it is different from sympathy and how empathy can really help you in becoming a very effective communicator and as a human being. We finally understood the case study or exercise for this course. With this, we come to an end of this course, Certified Communication Expert. Let's end this course with a wonderful quote by John Medina. Empathy works so well because it does not require a solution, it just requires only understanding. Thank you so much for taking up this course. Wish you all the very best and happy learning.
Congratulations on completing this online course. We hope you derived a lot of value from it. What next? 1. Implement the learning from the course in your personal and professional life. 2. Like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. 3. If you want to get a certificate, please do email your interest to us. In order to get a certificate, you are supposed to complete a quiz as well as the exercise or the project as explained in the course. Once you complete your assessment, the certificate will be issued. This prize is to ensure that we are covering our expenses of course creation and certification process. Thanks a lot for choosing Arun's Academy for your learning needs. Please do get back to us in case of any query or clarification, or if you have any training requirements. Do write your feedback regarding this course. We at Arun's Academy wish you all the very best. Keep learning and keep growing.